divided into countries. These countries have different kind of people, but each country has a specific kind of traits, physical traits, ideologies, and beliefs. This is important to understand the immigration and the nationalism. The nationalism is that concept that makes the people of the same country feel identifying between them and that feel a special feeling for their country. This can be good or this can be bad in some cases. This can be good when it helps people to improve the country and work for it and be able to accept people of other nationalities under the criteria that they follow the creedal and the values that the country promote. But nevertheless, nationalism can be negative also when the people exclude the other people and enter into a racism ideology in which they just accept the people with their traits. This takes us to make us a question. Is migration fine? Are the people of the other nationalities taking the opportunities of the people of our nationality? Or should we accept them? In this video, we are going to analyze which is the best position, and we are going to analyze many positions about the migration.
The first reading is called How Many More Deaths? Merkel's Immigration Policy Savaged After Fourth Killing Spree. This reading is about that the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been criticized because her slow reaction against terrorist attacks created by Syrian immigrants. Also, she got criticized because she was fueling the European immigrant crisis by promising to welcome those who make it Germany mostly illegally from outside the European Union. According to those problems, this year has been multiple protests against that policy, where the nation states that Mrs. Merkel was violating the direct threats with ISIS. On the other hand, people is not agree with Merkel because for them people that have German passports can travel to all European Union. So she hasn't created a problem for Germany, for European Union countries too. This reading states that all the problems from migration, also this reading present all Islam immigrants as terrorists because they have evidences that multiple attacks were created by them. Finally, this reading used the German law to attack immigration. An example of it is the direct threat with ISIS. The second reading is called Myths and Truths about the Immigration and Security in Sweden. This reading states the different myths and real facts about the migration in Sweden, giving a brief context. Trump's declarations about the security in Sweden create some trouble, because the nationalist right present their nation as an Islamist devil. As a counter-argument, the left side said that there is no issues with the arriving of immigrants. On the other hand, the reading shows two completely different poles that agree and disagree the migration to Sweden. That's why the reading concludes that the existing problems have a huge importance because Sweden is a free nation. Also, the population from Sweden made multiple tries to receive people from other countries. That's why this reading defends the migration using statistics. One of them that is a truth about the situation is that Sweden has received lots of immigrants. This is completely true because since the Second World War, Sweden has received an important quantity of refugees. It is at least 20,000 boys, and they were received in their country with education and resources. Nevertheless, there is a myth that is completely false is that Sweden is being Islamized. That means that the culture of the nation has been changed by the Islamic culture. But this isn't true because Sweden has received Christians, Druze, and different cultures. That's why this is completely false. Okay, the first person that we are going to interview is Nicolas Buitrago. He is studying marketing in the US and he's been living in that country for 5 years ago. So, Nicolas, what do you think about the migration situation in Germany? And are you agree with Merkel's position?
Well, I think Merkel has done a good job in some part and a bad job in another part because I think she did well in allowing people to refugee in her country and giving her opportunities to rise, but I also think she lacked security and understanding of some of these persons' positions, if they were terrorists or not, because that could affect the country as a whole and cause trouble in the long run.
The second person that we are going to interview is Juan Camilo Gallego. He's studying law in Javeriana University and he has been in Sweden in the last 2 years. So, what can you tell us about the refugee situation and if you consider that there is any limitation for them?
Okay, so the immigration situation in Sweden is one of the best. I think the government is a very powerful government. So they have received about 3 million immigrants, and the conditions for the immigrants in Sweden are very good. They treat them in very respectful manners, respecting their human rights, and considering all the factors, Sweden is one of the countries that needs to receive more immigrants because of their economic conditions. They have one of the best, and their country needs to gain population because Sweden is about one of the countries that has less population in the world. So receiving immigrants from countries that are less that are with worse economic situations than them is a very good idea because Sweden can receive them and can give them jobs, and it will also contribute to Sweden economic system.
My name is Juan Felipe Acuña, and my personal opinion with the phenomenon of the migration, taking into account the readings analyzed before, is that personally I am in total agreement with the opinion exposed in the text. How many more deaths in which Angela Merkel, the first chancellor in Germany, is being criticized for her politics about the migration, in which we can see the migration of multiple refugees without any filter. During this process, the rate of violence and terrorism in the country increased as a consequence of the illegal infiltration of war groups against the authority. So my personal conclusion make reference that any country can allow the migration of people by a legal process in which all individual passes through a filter that could identify their whole identity in order to know their social and economical input to the country and to prevent future terrorist attacks by a controlled surveillance. I am not agree with the migration. Well, in some cases as Colombia and Venezuela, for example, because we are not in the best position, and they are coming to low even that position. I am agree with the migration when the people that comes to the other country deserve it, and they are in a battle to win that nationality. And when there is a country like Sweden or Norway, where they have the possibilities.
In the case of a country who is receiving the immigrant, such phenomenon is very advantageous since it promotes a more diverse country and culture. Immigrants can also be useful to do certain jobs to a lower price. Nevertheless, there are some disadvantages from immigration. In the first place, there could be racism due to intolerance or disagreement between cultures. Another very important factor is that the government will have to pay for the immigrants' cost of health insurance and public education.
I agree with the immigration when it has a sustainable background. That means that the country where people are arriving has enough sources to sustain them, but also to help them to progress. Also, it's important to note that the immigration tests the tolerance between the people and could help in the knowledge of the society because the people that arrive can teach new abilities, new performs to the people that is in the nation already. Concluding, it is evident that the immigration has a huge impact. That's why different governments design programs to help those people that has no sources and are arriving to their country. Nevertheless, the immigration sometimes promotes the intolerance in a nation, but also it sometimes promotes the tolerance because a process of acceptance for the people that is arriving. That's why, and during the whole work, we use the criteria to first read both articles and take notes. Also, we create an action table to determine every part of the work that each member has to do, and finally, determine which were the correct people to make the interviews.